This video is brought to you by Patreon supporter Alan.
I guess it's safe to say that Alan, my Patreon provider, really likes Athlon, because he not just sent in one, he sent in two Gen 2 BTRs. The first one we already took a look at is the 6-24. This one is their 1-10 by 28. Yes, this is a second focal plane 34mm tube 1-10 LPVO. It's got a fairly interesting looking reticle on there, a little bit reminiscent of what we saw with the Gen 3 Razor, and there are all of our specs. If this thing's truly 16 ounces, that'll make it very, very light indeed. Typical Athlon boxes, they are fantastic for the money. And speaking about money, what is this 1-10 1-10 second focal plane LPVO go for? About $500. That's not too bad. At least on paper, it's not too bad. The big difference is going to come out to what it's going to look like and how is it going to perform. Anyway, on to the owner's manual, which is very short, sweet, to the point. There's not a whole lot in it. There is our reticle, the ATMR4. And I'd be very curious to see how bright this thing is. Again, for the price, I'm not expecting much, but I'm very happy to see that they at least made this out of a 34mm tube, not a 30, because a 34mm tube is going to allow a lot more light to come in as opposed to a 30mm. There is how you do your ranging. So this is set up for I'm assuming a full-size IPSC target. Yep, 36 inches. And that's basically it. I like that this incorporates the ranging reticle down here. I don't like it when they're integrated into the side of your main reticle. I prefer it at 6 or 12 o'clock because it's very easy just to dip down or dip up to range and then be back on center. I feel if you put them on the sides at like 3 or 6 and very close, it starts to clutter the reticle a lot. But again, that's just my opinion. It's not, lore. It's just my words. Words are just words. Anyway, on to the actual scope. What we get are these non-branded scope caps, which are very reminiscent in fit, finish, sound, and feel to the caps that come with most primary arms optics. I'm going to take them off for the rest of this review because they just get in the way. And here we are. This thing does feel very lightweight. Athlon claimed, 16 ounces? So on my scale, it comes in almost 18. Still not that bad, considering this is a 34mm 1-10. Very, very lightweight, in fact. Very similar to the Mark 6 Loophole that I reviewed not too long ago. But weight is not everything. In fact, I'd much rather have a heavier optic that's going to be bulletproof and look really good and be very usable. Fast focus eyepiece all the way back, quarter turn in as we always do it. And there is some rocking to this. Not side to side, but up and down. There's a good amount of shim to it. It does get a little bit easier once you're past like quarter of the way out, but it's not too bad. It's smooth other than that. It's fine. Magnification ring, 1-10. 10 is just past 6 o'clock, so where the 6-24 was just under 180 degrees, this is just over 180 degrees. You know what? Before I forget about it, the anodizing on this does look to be very thin. It's got an extra bit of, how should I say, shine coming through that looks like the aluminum body. Nail test, as you can see, it's very smooth, very soft. It doesn't really dig into it. Anyway, just like the 6-24, you hear a little bit of rubbing, but at least the magnification ring feels pretty consistent all the way through the range. Illumination control on the side goes from 1 to 6 with offs in between. Nice solid action. Pops right in. But again, this thing is almost brand new, so I'm not expecting this to be super worn in yet. But it does sound excellent. Under the battery compartment, you can see we have the exact same spring setup and 3-prong setup that we saw on the 6-24 and also on most other budget optics. Under the caps, you can see we have half MOA click intervals on both the elevation and the windage, but you can clearly see that they are the exact same cap. So if you have to dial in with your windage, you're going to have to take note of where you started and where you ended, because it's easy to go from 0 up, but it's hard to go from 0 down. Getting ahead of myself. how do these things sound? They sound good, but you can barely feel the detent. It's just at the cusp of this thing being smooth, and it's kind of hard to turn. Does sound really good though. But you can see how much play there is. Side to side. That's not the embodiment of super high quality. But let's check out the windage. Windage is about the same in the play. Same sound. It feels like it might be a little bit tighter going into the detent as far as it clicking, but these feel kind of numb. Not anywhere near as good as the ones in the 6-24. Let's, however, see if the screw that's holding this cap on is doing so with more than one thread. Nope, that looks to be about the same. The only difference is this one has a washer on top, an aluminum washer. Where's that clear? No, I'm sorry. That is a silicone washer for your weather sealing. And you can see just how few threads are sticking out of the top. Again, I mean, granted, these do not lock. These are capped, so you don't have to worry about pulling up on these. But it's not really being held in there by all that much. And again, you have 5, maybe 6 threads in there. Why not just have a longer screw? I don't get it. I don't get it, Athlon. You do have a nice O-ring on the outside and the decent sized body on the inside. That's actually another thing I should note. The caps do not have O-rings on them, either on the cap or on the body. So when you lock these up, it's aluminum on aluminum, which will eventually rub off, but these aren't fully weather sealed, which is why you see the little silicone washer under the screw for the actual turd itself. Hopefully this thing will look better than how it so far feels.
So how does this thing perform for sub $500? In fact, I've actually seen it for sub $400, which is absolutely nutty to me. It feels really good in hand for that money. Here, you could see that there's a little edge distortion, but we do have some fisheyeing towards the middle. Again, being a 1-10, this glass is pushed to a very far extreme. However, because it's second focal plane, it's nowhere near as bad as, let's say, the Gen 3 Razor HD. That thing still in my mind is atrocious. At least here we have a fairly clear image from edge to edge, albeit we see a little bit more scope body around it than we do with the Gen 3 Razor HD, but given the fact this is, less than quarter the price, I'm fine with that. Focusing our attention on our 400-yard brick building here, we're around 405x. We still have a very nice image in the middle range of the magnification. We slowly bring it all the way up to its maximum here at 10x, and we are greeted with a beautiful image. Despite the fact the early morning sun is changing the color hue a little bit, we still have a very clear image from edge to edge. Way better than what we saw with the Gen 3 Razor HD. Illumination here is clearly daytime visible. It's not full-on daytime bright like what we see with the brightest LPVOs and red dots, but it's more than sufficient if you're looking just to create contrast. One thing we do have is some chromatic aberration, which will be more apparent in higher contrast areas, which you're going to see right now as I give my closing thoughts on this unboxing. Alan, thank you very much for sending this in. I love getting my hands on things that I normally wouldn't be interested in. Honestly, a 1-10 second focal plane like this with cap turrets really doesn't excite me all that much because it has no room in my personal arsenal. But for you, it might be great. And if this interests you, please stay tuned for the full review coming very soon. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching. And as always, see you again next time.
And a huge thank you to my Patreon providers. Without you, this truly wouldn't be possible. If you'd like to help support the channel but don't want to join my Patreon, I completely understand. But you can help by using the affiliate links in the description below. Thanks again for watching.